Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylist podcast, where we talk all about interiors with interviews with interior stylists, writers and the big names in interiors, from brands and PRs to artists and designers. I also catch up with industry experts in the know and get them to share all their knowledge and advice. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner, an interior stylist and a writer with a ton of experience. I set up InsideStylist.com so I could share all that interiors love with you. So don't forget to head on over to the website for not only the show notes from today's episode, but for links to interior stylists, writers and assistants' profiles, and a ton of inspiration. But for now, enjoy the show. When it comes to interior blogging, you don't get much more experienced or successful than today's guest. She began writing her blog in 2016 after moving to a new home. She wanted to decorate on a budget after being made redundant whilst 8 months pregnant. Such a common thing. She hardly ever calls in a tradesman, having a go at learning how to do all the DIY herself, or as she puts it on the blog, I gave this a try, this is how it went. With countless awards, press mentions and an enviable ability to turn anything high street into a designer look, I'm thrilled to introduce to you today's guest, Melanie Lissack.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to your beautiful home.
Very welcome.
I've said it so many times, but it's interesting when you come into someone's house that you've seen in little squares, and then you come in and it smells gorgeous. Your house smells really lovely.
Thank you. It's a nice Tom Dixon candle to conceal the smell of wet, muddy dog.
Yeah, we got a dog with us who's continuously going to stare me out, but you know, I love a dog, so it's all good. So, this podcast interview came about because you were talking on Instagram about blogging and not putting all your eggs in one basket. So I thought we could concentrate today on talking about interior blogging and why it's important and kind of how you have become so successful, because it's a very short space of time. You've literally done it in 4 years. But what's your background? Is your background interiors?
No, not at all.
I don't know what your background is.
My background is the music industry.
Oh, is it?
So when I moved to London to go to uni and studied communications, which basically I was just like teenage mass music fan. And all I wanted to do is work within the music industry. And I did. I ended up working for all the major record labels, Warner's, EMI, Universal. When I left...
What did you do? What was your job?
So I worked mainly on the digital side. This is going to show how old I am. But basically I was on the team that launched iTunes.
Oh, wow.
When it actual kind of like file sharing was a thing, and then iTunes came about as a way to overcome all this like illegal file sharing. And I was on that team that launched that in the UK. And then when I left the music industry, I was in charge of sort of digital marketing and also supply chain, but kind of that thing when they had like we're going to play the exclusive Robbie Williams track and no one can get hold of it, and I was in charge of like getting it to Radio 1 and making sure that it was all safe and delivered, and that's what I did.
So it sounds like quite a techie job.
It was a little bit tech, but but I definitely learned a lot of stuff that I carried over to the blog from that. I did a lot of things with Photoshop. I learned a lot about sort of technology. I wasn't a very techie person. I was in it for the music, man. You know what I mean? But I did sort of fall down that path quite a bit. And what I learned on that job, I definitely moved over onto the blog. I have to say, yeah.
So how? I read on your about page that you were 8 months pregnant.
Yes.
When you got made redundant.
Yes.
And you had just moved into this house.
No, we were still living in our old house in London, so basically EMI folded because, as a lot of record companies, they just weren't making any money, and they were kind of being sold off, and I was heavily pregnant and we were all made redundant, and basically they offered me a nice wad of cash to not moan about going 8 months pregnant, and I was like, fine. I felt like at that point, you know what, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I'd been doing it for years. My husband is a full-time musician. I just felt it was like all our lives. And I did actually want to do, even though I didn't start the blog for it to become a job, I actually was so into interiors at that point. I just knew I wanted to move career. So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to have my child, and then I will reassess after that point. The blog didn't actually come about as anything to do with that, though. Basically, I just didn't even think about what I was going to do then. I had my child. And then when he was born, we had a lot of complications at the start and a lot of issues, and it was very clear that I wasn't going to be able to go back to work anytime soon. And to be honest, the blog started as a bit of kind of like a bit of therapy for me.
A bit of that giving you an outlet.
Yeah, because I'd always worked and always been a really busy person and doing things. All of a sudden, I was essentially, yes, I was a new mum, but it was becoming very clear that I was going to be becoming a carer because, as it turned out, my child had severe autism, and there was no way I was going to go back. I used to leave the house at 8 and get back at 7:30. That was nights that I wasn't doing gigs or all that sort of stuff. And that just wasn't going to work anymore. So we'd moved house to this house as a bit of a fresh start after his first birthday, because he had lots of issues in and out of hospital, and that kind of chapter had passed and we wanted a fresh start. We moved here. In my previous house, when we brought it, I became obsessed with I'm going to paint it this colour and doing all this. And then when we moved here, it just took it on to another level. And like I said, it was definitely it gave me something outside of being this new mum, having to deal with all that, but also having to deal with lots of issues. It was just a bit of a release. Yeah. And I didn't even write it for him to really read it. I thought maybe my mum would read it and my mate would read it on occasion.
But we all start like that, don't
we? And it was just because people coming here and they're like, oh, I like this, how did you make it? And then I was like, oh, well, I just did that with a bit of floristry wire and a bit of super glue and a bit, and so I started documenting it. And then really quickly it started to take off quite a bit. I mean, it was so different. For just 4 years ago, back then, there was UK sort of bloggers, very, very small handful. Instagram wasn't even really a thing. There was a really small handful of interior bloggers and Instagrammers back then that are all still about now, kind of the old school crew, I guess. But it's nothing like it is now, where there's loads of people doing loads of stuff.
So your timing was just perfect.
I think so, yeah. And it quickly came, the turning point was basically after 6 months I won one of the Amara awards.
Did you do you have to enter yourself to that, or do other people put you forward?
You basically, so it's basically someone nominate you. Yeah. Everyone nominates themselves.
Of course they do.
So I nominated myself and really put in the work of going around to everyone going please can you vote for me? The old Facebook, can everyone vote for me in this thing? And I got through to then the judges, judge you, and it was people from Farrah Ball and Claudia Bale and all the big interior journalists. And I won, which was amazing. And when I look back, I think, oh my God, because my blog was awful when I started, awful. If I go back now and look, it's terrible.
There's a saying that says, if you look back at the beginning and you're not embarrassed, you waited too long to start. I think that you need to see the progression. I think it's really healthy to look back and go, oh my God, that's cringe.
And it was terrible. But I think what I had tapped into was a niche that people were interested in. So I won Best DIY and Craft Blog. And I think what was different about me was that I wasn't a kind of craft in the traditional calf Kidston, make a cushion, overly girly kind of stuff. I was right, I've just walked into heels. I want that. Yeah. It costs $7,000. How am I going to make it for 70 quid? Yeah. And that's what I did, and that's what the judges told me afterwards that really appealed to them, because I was more into having a bit of a contemporary edge on it.
Yeah, and you were making kind of high-end looks attainable.
Yeah, that was my thing, and I think that was, wasn't really being done a lot. There was definitely other people that were doing it in much better than me at that point. But I think that definitely, I quickly learned that niche was a good path to go down.
So did you kind of focus on that after the awards, after winning? You kind of thought, right, this is what people want, I'm going to give more?
Well, not really. I still always just did
what
I wanted to do, and I was just going around doing stuff around the house of what I wanted to do, and sort of posting it and trying to become better, because when I first started I was still unemployed and didn't have disposable income. At this point in my life, I was having my husband paid for everything. So I wasn't like, right, I'm going to go invest in like the best camera, and I'm going to go and invest on all these courses. And I literally was just like, I'm going to have to teach myself how to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just spent a lot of time. And I took photos on the blog then were just taken on my mobile phone, which if you think before you go, it's actually, in mobile phone life, is actually a really long time. So the photos are awful, but you get better and you pick up tips from other people, and so now I feel like I'm at a stage where actually I'm quite, but I'm always wanting to, because there's always someone else who's doing amazing stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I want to get as good as them. But then I think that's a good thing. But I think it's important that when you do start, it's not going to be incredible. No. You just have to find. It's like any job. You have to learn on the job and find your path.
So what do you take your photos with now?
Olympus pen, but I still don't really know how to use it. But I have different lenses, and I try and kind of look at how other people have done. I'd love to do now like a course on that photography.
If we do that,
that's good. It's like all the time, but it's again, but from doing it every week, taking photos, you get better. And I think it's important to learn those things. I know a lot of people at the minute, especially Instagrammers, invest in having professional photographers come and shoot their house, because if they have a great image, it tends to get shared more. That's how they grow their account. And I do get that, but at the same time, you want to learn those skills yourself, because an opportunity might come up, and then you're like, "That's great,
photographer, but
I can't do it." They might say, "Come on this amazing press trip, but we just needed to take these photos," and you don't know how to do it. So
very good point.
I think it's good to be able to do all these things yourself. And I think if you're a blogger, you have to, because then you own your images.
Yes.
Because
it gets very messy.
Yes. And if people want to use your images, they have to pay you for those images, and those don't belong to you. You're going to lose out on income. So yes, I think it's important to just learn the job. And it doesn't matter if you're rubbish at the start. Just keep at it. You'll get better. So
yeah, I've got a DSLR. It's very old, and it doesn't it's not Bluetooth enabled or anything. So if I take a picture, I have to put wires in and everything, and I have not got a clue what I'm doing. I fiddle, and I think I've been a stylist for nearly 20 years, but I have never had to take the pictures. So I've got a clue what I'm doing. So it's literally like, I need something that I can. But I love the idea of the Olympus pen, where it's all digital, and you can literally just send it to your phone or send it to your laptop.
I know, and these cameras, it's like phone. They're just, if you just put it on automatic, they're so good. And as long as I think with me, that just changing up the lens has made a lot of difference, because you realise you can get so many different shots. Yeah. And you know what you do. If you want something soft in the... Sorry, we're not allowed to say fuzzy anymore. Oh, okay. Soft in the background. You know which lens to put on and stuff. Yeah, so that... I've got 2 lenses for my camera, and that's literally it. I do the pictures with the regular lens, and then I put the soft focus lens on just afterwards. That's fine. You can get good photos and stuff like that. But I'd always say just, and if you'd think, I just want to give this a go, I don't know if it's for me, just do it on your iPhone. Like, those photos are great. And then when you start moving forward and you want to say, okay, I'm going to really go all in with this, then invest the money.
But also, the phones now are so phenomenal. I've spoken to professional photographers, and they're one in particular said he had someone with him on a family holiday, and they took a picture of the family, and because of the way the phone can take the people in the focus people in the foreground are in focus, and the background was all the pier and stuff. And he said, my £40,000 camera can't do this. An iPhone X can. And it's amazing that actually sometimes you can probably take very interesting different pictures with your phone that you can't do with a digital professional photographer.
Yeah, I still do use my phone now and again, especially when I'm having difficulty with the light, because camera phones can seem to take the light a bit better than taking a darker shot and then trying to lighten it up in Photoshop. So if you're wanting to start out, and just use the basics at first, and see how you go. Yeah, because I think
use whatever you've got. Really.
Because what I would say is blogging is not an easy game. I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, it's so hard being my job, because I love it and it's great, and I'm not going. I always feel like when people say, oh, it is hard, there seems to be so much influencer. It's so hard being influencer at the minute going around, or Instagram. And it's like when you say that, there's someone on a night bus going to clean sick in a nightclub toilet. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But blog, it is. Yeah. It takes a lot of time to create what you're going to shoot it, edit it, write it up, check it's okay, do all the SEO, make sure you've got text overlay on a Pinterest image, keep all that up. So for some people, I think they start and then they think, actually, I can't do this.
Well, yeah, it's like, how often in the beginning did you say, right, I need to post every week, or did you just do things as and when you had projects going?
I think when I started, I probably blogged more because I was so eager to get going. And I had, Instagram wasn't such a big thing that took so much of your time. And, so it was just blogging. But I always made sure that I at least posted once a week. And I still now, obviously over Christmas,
yeah, we all need a breather.
Yeah. and then sometimes I guess in the middle of the summer holidays, because you have to give yourself a break. Because
but do you find people sorry, we're going completely off on a tangent, but I think at Christmas and in the summer, everyone's doing their own thing. People aren't really going, where's that blog I want to read? It's like, actually, you're so wrapped up in your own little world, you don't notice.
This sort of Christmas, I stopped to think about the second week in it, because, and that was with the kind of like, doing the kind of Christmas-based stuff, like, people will do like their gift guides, but I tend to do very much, because I'm sort of DIY, like how to make a fireplace, and it's all garland.
Yeah, your fireplace is phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's like, how do you get that to stay on?
and once I did that, I was like, because people, they're like, trying to get ready for Christmas. Christmas is intense, so, and then I put all my efforts into being like, right, because once Christmas is over, it's January, everyone's staying in, it's cold, it's miserable, people are going to read more, and they're going to want to know about what's going to be going for like 2020, what's the trends, and then that, in January, I tend to get one of the biggest spikes in traffic through the year, because people are really like interested in what's going to be the new thing for the year. One of my biggest blog posts at the minute is paint trends. Yeah, your paint.
You just put one out this week.
I put
on
this,
the eco paints.
Eco paints.
That's brilliant.
I just did one. I think just before Christmas was about paint trends. So like what colours.
Oh, okay.
I think because everyone's like, take the decorations down. My house, I'm fed up of it. It needs a paint. What's going to be the key colours? So you need to think. Don't waste your time trying to build your blog like the week before Christmas. Put your energy into the stuff that you know is going to be, and give yourself some time off. So every week I always blog, sometimes twice a week, but I always make sure I just get that one, because I think consistency is so important. Yeah. If you're not consistent and you're not offering people the information that they need, and you're just kind of like dropping in here once every 3 months, you don't become, I think, a credible source. No,
and also Google won't push you up the page ranks. If you aren't regular, Google likes consistency, so it will always push you
So all
higher.
of that stuff, and all social media and all that, consistency is key. You have to keep on top of it all. But also your readers, I think, if you're just, they're like, well, only last time you did something was like 3 months ago. Why would I say that you're a credible source? Because you're not showing your passion, you're not showing your commitment, and you're not. It's just, and it's really important. And I think as well, because I now kind of earn a living through the blog, it's very important to me to make sure that not everything I do is just, this is sponsored by. I want to show that I'm, knowledgeable in my area, and I'm, interested. So basically most of my content is definitely like at least 70-80% is always organic, because otherwise it's just not the right.
Did you find people are less engaged in sponsored posts?
No, I think that you need to be clever with how you do them. I think when you take on a sponsored deal, you need to really think what you can bring to the table for the brand and for the reader. And I think the most important thing when you write a blog is thinking about what that person is going to get out of that post. No one's reading your blog because they really actually care about you. They're actually thinking...
I disagree.
Do you?
I think that's why your blog does so well. I think in general that's why people do so well. Because when you think about how many... I'm going to make you blush.
Okay.
When you think about how many interiors blogs there are, why do you follow specific people? Because there might be 20 blogs out there that talk about eco paint. Why do they come to yours? Because they like you. Because they like the way you do it. Because they like the way you say it. Sorry, it sounds like I'm blowing smoke up your ass. I'm not. I'm talking from a professional person's point of view. It's the same. It's same with anything. It's same with Instagram. There's a million Instagrammers who are talking interiors. Why do you follow specific people? Because you like the way they talk. Because you think they're authentic and genuine, or you think they're funny. So they come. A lot of it they come because of who is talking.
See, that's quite, because I find that most of my audience are people that don't really follow me on social media, so they don't know. So my thing has always been like, I have to think about what someone's getting out of it. Like,
but your voice comes across. So when you write as you talk, so people are getting a hint of your personality.
Oh.
So you're still getting it across.
Essex drawl. I just always think you have to think what someone's getting out of it. That's getting a bit of inspiration for their own home, finding out the answer to their question. You know, they always think of that in mind when I do a blog post, and I think that's why why I get a lot of traffic is because you always have to think of that. I always see kind of people make. I don't want to say people make mistakes, but especially if they're kind of starting out bloggers or they're Instagrammers and kind of big in their own right, and they'll write about, say like, I've just redone my child's bedroom and I'm going to write the blog post next week, and I could just say like, Jackson's bedroom update. Who's going to go to Google and search Jackson's bedroom update? So I need to angle it in the way to say like, 6 cheap and easy tips to update your child's bedroom on a budget. Because someone will look at those like, things, and then I'll incorporate my son's bedroom. I've updated his bedroom. This is how I did it. I used wall decals rather than invested in expensive wallpaper. I upcycled. I used paint that I had left over to, and that's how you have to angle it.
Yeah, so you're using keywords essentially to bring people in.
Yeah, and also giving them something back. Like, I'm not just going to write, oh, Jackson turned 6 and he likes this, so I'm going to update and make it like this. It needs to be like, this is saving me money, or this is a good idea, or this is really effective way to design. And it's sort of showing people so that they think, actually, that's what I could do that as well. And that's, I think, why I like writing a blog, is because you're always offering something to help someone. So kind of turning that back around when you're saying sponsored posts, I don't think that people ever kind of would say, I think definitely on Instagram when people see ad, people are like, oh no. But when you're like when you're doing a blog, especially with me doing DIY, you need to show and reveal like the product, but do it in like a way that incorporates the style that your readers like.
Jarring.
And so I think one of my most successful collaborations last year was working with Gorilla Glue for the year, and that brought out a lot of, I had to think of really creative ways, because it's glue, it's amazing, but I can't just say, I fixed Michelle with some glue. No one's, I mean, the people are really interested in that, but you need to make it nice photos so it goes up and everything. So that did really change, but people were interested in the project and how I did it and how I recreated it. And so that sold glue, brand awareness for the glue, but without being, buy this glue.
Yeah.
And that's how I think you have successful collaborations with brands. It needs to work for your readership and work for the brand. And that's, that's how I try and do these things. Yeah,
I can see how it's a challenge. So if we use Jackson's bedroom as an example, how, obviously you do the DIY and you get the project done.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to do a blog post, say from start to finish? So once you've taken all the pictures and everything, when you sit down to type it all up and put the images in?
I mean, I definitely give myself 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah. But the reason being that when I write, I don't just sit and it just flows out of me. I tend to probably try and write that first paragraph for like a half an hour. Like, how do I just start this? I think it's easier when I've done a project, because it's a bit more like explaining what I did, but it's coming out with that first paragraph. And then, so I'll think, does this flow right? And go back, go forth. And then, I kind of will take my phone and read it, you know, because it's on a different format and you can notice things that don't sound right or aren't spelt properly and things like that. Editing the images and then kind of going back to it. And then, of course, there's all the, like, you know, once you've written a blog post, I have to put it up on Facebook, I have to put it on my mailing list, I have to create a pinnable image, I have to pin all the images from the article with keywords to Pinterest, to all the boards. You know, I usually create nice videos on Instagram stories with special apps to draw people in. So it's massively time consuming.
Yeah, I think that's what I think people don't. It's like if you're a stylist or a writer and you want to do a blog, it's a thing on the side, but it's a hell of a time investment, especially if it takes 2 days and you want to put one out every week. Yeah. That's a massive amount of time.
And that's without even doing the project in the first place. So, you know, especially if I'm doing like for blog posts and things, I've done whole room reveals, big projects, and that will take, I usually, what I do, if I'm going to do a blog about that, I'll usually give myself a week to complete it from start to finish. You know, a longer if it's, you know, a big DIY project, because, you know, these things sort of take time. You have to be really like time management. But, you know, I spend a lot of my time. Yeah, I am. I'm pretty organised.
Do you plan your posts like ahead? I mean, if you've got a sponsored post, obviously there's a timeline to it.
But I tend to always think in my mind about 2 weeks ahead for content. I don't think like 6 months in advance. I think like literally like 2 weeks. Like, what am I going to post next week and what am I going to post the week after? But a lot of the time, what I write about is just something I've discovered, something that's piqued my interest. You know, something like that, or something that I'm thinking of doing in the house. So with the eco paint one came about because I was doing Jackson's room and I went into my local decorators merchant, and I was just thinking about using the paint in his room and the VOCs, and I got talking to the person behind the counter, and they were like, "Oh, we're thinking about getting this new painting called graphenstone, and that actually absorbs CO2 from the air." And I was like, "What?"
Wow.
And I was like, "This is amazing." So I went back and researched it, and I was like, "Wow, these eco paints, it's, you know, a whole new technology." And then I sort of looked, and not a lot of people within the interiors world had started to write about the graphenstone brand, and I was like, "This is a great story." So that's why I decided to do that this week. And then another thing, the week before that, was the fact that because it's January, and I'm like, okay, I need to redecorate our bedroom because it's a disaster. It's just like we've had a leak and the wallpaper's coming off the walls.
Is that? Hang on. I remember when I very first discovered you. It was in the summer and the wallpaper had.
Yes. This house is weird. Especially it expands. And
I'll just explain very briefly to people listening who didn't see. So someone must have mentioned you, and I went to your Instagram page, and you were talking about you had this amazing wallpaper, but where you'd wallpapered previously, and the walls had basically expanded. There's a crack, so there was massive cracks all the way through the wallpapers, and it was like 2 centimetres or something, but more than one.
Yeah.
All around your house, and I was like, "Oh my god, you got this really expensive wallpaper, and it's just cracked apart." And then it went back.
And then it
cooled down. It was ridiculously hot that summer, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's I don't know if it's the fact that this house is on a hill, because it's on a really high hill, or what. I mean, but it's just it just expands and contracts, this room. And it was so weird because before I'd always ever just painted it, and there was never really any sign of like big cracks, but it was wallpapered. And then the hotter it got, the lines, because the walls were painted pink and it was a dark wallpaper, all these pink stripes coming up. And then when it cooled down, it started to go back, and then it spread out. This summer we had that huge heat wave, and it just went. And so I'm redecorating it and realise that it can't take wallpaper, that room, because of the expanding and contracting. So
that's quite stressful. I was quite stressed watching you. I was like, "Oh my god, what's she gonna do?"
Well, I kept thinking, what? Why?
What is it? Yeah. Is my house gonna fall down?
It's so weird because I wallpapered it ages before. Like, what is it? You know, because sometimes you paper and then the paper shrink. But it's not. And then it started to do it in the bathroom downstairs as well, where the walls had started to come up. It's very strange. But that's what you get with houses. All these random little quirks. But so, I need to do that. So I've been thinking about, okay, well, what do I want to do in this bedroom this time? We had a wallpaper and that was pretty jazzy. And I was like, actually, I feel like this time I really feel like something calming and serene. So I've been thinking about that a lot. So then I wrote a blog post like how to create a card, because I've been doing lots of what works and looking at loads of pictures and thinking, well, that looks really nice. I'd like to wake up there. And so blog posts like that, that's just how they kind of evolve. It's just whatever I'm interested in, what piques my interest. New products as well, new paint launches, and then also you're always thinking about posts that are going to be popular and keep traffic driving to your blog. Because I have to say, the biggest traffic drivers to my blog always tend to be about 5 posts.
Yeah, the same 5 posts.
Yeah. And even though ones come and go, like there's these ones like my how to wallpaper post is such a massive driver of traffic. And when I go to Google, it's at the top, it's above Wix, wallpaper, thinking, all of those ones. It's just me, the picture of a paintbrush, and I think, oh my god, this is like people are actually coming, and that gets so much traffic. So I always think, how am I going to do something like that that's going to be a real puller to drive?
Yeah, it's evergreen content.
Yeah, because then when people are on there, you have a little other posts related to it, and you hope that they click through and then they subscribe and they become a reader. So all of that stuff goes through my mind.
We were talking before we started recording about the importance of blogs, and you just touched on it there. Is that we were kind of saying how you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket, and Instagram is great, and if you've got 100,000 followers or even 10,000 followers, it could easily. Not that Instagram's going to switch it off, but they change the algorithms. Yeah. But I mean, I found recently, I do work with Emma Merry, and I've got 2 accounts. Yeah, me too. I call her my Emma. So I've got Emma MT Stylist and I've got Inside Stylist. Yeah. I wasn't following her on Inside Stylist, but I followed her. So Instagram has unfollowed me. So it's weird. These things keep happening, and it's weird. And another friend couldn't post, couldn't kind of store drafts, and people have this thing where they suddenly can't do what they want to do. And if you're running your business just your Instagram, it's like I feel you're putting yourself in a little bit of a vulnerable spot. Yeah. And that's why I think it was really good to have you on the podcast to talk about blogging, because I think blogging is so important. Yeah, I mean, I think Instagram is as well, and it definitely favours new accounts, because I think they think it's like fresh content, because people older accounts would tend to have kind of stuck to their sort of niche. And then I definitely see things like people that I follow, but I never like their pictures, and I never engage, and I don't watch their stories, but they were always at the forefront, whereas people I'm actually really interested in, I'm like, well, where have they gone? Yeah. And I go and they've posted loads and I haven't seen anything. But you never know where their Instagram is going to stick you, and you might be someone that gets, and you might not, and it's just too much, for me. I do Instagram because I enjoy it on a personal level. Me too. Yeah, I like seeing, just seeing what people, and catching up with people and chatting. Yeah. And it's a social media platform, and it is social, and I love that aspect of it. But I would never say that was my blog is my. Yeah, Instagram is a backup, to drive traffic to my blog. Yeah. I'm not all about Instagram, which some people are, and that works for them. But for me, it's always about just drive. So I will put up pictures that I know won't get any likes, but I know because people will see that I've written a blog post about it, so we'll go through. But I think, people have been saying, oh, blogs are dead, no one's got the time to read a blog. I think that's rubbish. Yeah, I think that's rubbish. In fact, it's proven rubbish. I think that, blogs will always, because it's the internet, and where do you go when you need to find something? The internet, and it's, if you're writing insightful, engaging content, people will come to your blog and will find you, and also if you're doing all the right sort of keywords and stuff, but they will find you and they'll find your content, and that is always there. And to be honest, what I get from Instagram is like a pinprick from what I get from people directly coming from a search. Pinterest as well is a huge driver of traffic for me, and I think especially being in interiors as well, like we were saying before, you tend to be pushing big ticket items. If you buy, I don't want to encourage fast fashion, but you go and buy a top and you wear it twice, and you're like, where if you're buying something for your house, if you're buying a sofa, you need to invest time into looking at that, researching it. You're not going to just do a swipe up. I'll buy a $2,000 sofa. So people would tend to see something on Instagram, think, oh, that's nice, but not, whereas Pinterest, they tend to be like, right, we're doing a kitchen reno,
let's look at Pinterest.
Yeah, let's create a whole board with everything.
And that's where they'll probably find your like kitchen trends tips, or your like, you know, your brand awareness of a kit. So you've written about a kitchen company, that sort of thing, and that, you know, that takes time and to sort of go through, but it drives the traffic in the end. Sometimes I do posts like that about kitchen, because kitchens are such a big investment and people spend so much time. And then it starts off kind of like slow, but by the time you look back at the end of the year, you see that that's really taken off. And
again, it's although kitchen trends is very trend led for that specific time. If you're talking about something more generic about how to plan a kitchen, it's people are always going to be looking for that.
Going to the right place to buy your units. So it's and then it's that keeps coming back, and like gardens, doing stuff in your garden as well, that comes back. And so I think blogs are massively important, and outside of our kind of like social media bubbles and groups and communities and things, there's a whole wide world up there of people that have homes who aren't maybe like us interiors obsessed, but like will find you and take from your posts. So sorry, my dog is staring out, isn't
I'm getting stared at. Hello, gorgeous doggy. Hello. Actually, there's something I don't want to forget to mention is two things. Brands want links back to their website from credible places, and blogs and websites and things like that, linking back to, so there's a sofa company and you mention a sofa, their link goes through to their website. That is gold to them. So that's a reason why that is good. A lot of people don't have swipe up on Instagram, and also the credibility of Instagram isn't quite the same as the credibility of a website. No, and a blog is a website.
I would say that brands would look to me to be as a credible source, because people tend, because I write my blog every week and it sort of shows my sort of passion and enthusiasm, that they kind of, I mean, I don't.
I'll tell you. Shall I tell you what they think?
What? I was going to say, I don't want to sound like really like that.
I'll tell you exactly what it is, because I did a lot of research into this.
Okay.
Brands want SEO from websites, and they can't get that from magazines. So I'm obviously from a magazine background.
Right.
Brands want to be featured in a magazine that are seen as the authority, and people buy into the experts who are there. They then see blogs, Instagram, everything like that as affirming those decisions. So they want to be seen from all different directions. So you are affirming that this is a great sofa to buy, sort of thing. So people are then going to be driven through to their websites, and they're going to get SEO from all points. You can't get SEO from a magazine. So it's like they want to be seen everywhere. So that's what you're doing. You're kind of telling them that this is a good company.
And I think because my blog has good traffic, strong domain authority and all that sort of stuff, and is posted to regularly, it's kind of seen as someone who's, oh god, I hate saying this, but like maybe has like whose opinion slightly matters on it, and therefore
you're authentic.
They want to work with me in relation to the blog, I guess, and that's
it's your personality again. See? I'm telling you.
But I think that, and I think that's why blogs are so important. You can't just do it on the back burner. It needs to be your big focus. So I think blogs are important. I still read blogs from
Me too. I love
like all the time.
And like you say, when I research something, if a blog comes up, I'm like, great. I like that.
And I tend to always read a blog, because even if you're kind of like doing like sponsored post, because there's so many bloggers out there, and everyone does really want to, if you're a good blog, you want to be authentic. You won't really talk about something if you think actually it's rubbish. You want to
quality, not quantity.
So I would always take it, and it would tend to talk more about things that you probably wouldn't in magazines, like how this works with my kid, or how this works with my lifestyle.
Specific to you.
And that, I think that's great for brands, who are investing in you to sort of make the product.
I'm really sorry, but the dog's getting closer and closer. Hello. Yes, you're gorgeous. The other thing I think is really important to mention is that I don't think Instagram's going anywhere, but if you do get shadow banned or whatever, how do you contact your followers if you don't have access to Instagram or Facebook or whatever? And that is why blogging gives you the opportunity to have a newsletter, or you have email lists essentially.
So you own your content. That's the thing, and you have you know, when you're putting stuff up onto Instagram, you don't own it anymore.
No.
Like,
or Facebook.
Yeah, that Instagram owns it. And, you know, so if there was when you're paying for it to have your website, you know, you have to pay a small fee every month for, you know, for your website to be hosted. Because of that, you're a customer to them, and you know, you have rights, and that's your content. And so you know that if there is something that happens and then someone just turns off the plug of Instagram because of national security or any of these things that can happen in this day and age, then
you're okay. You're covered.
then you're okay, and you can build. You've already got a starting point again to build from on whatever next social media platform, because you can say blah blah blah. Here's, if everyone has to start at dot again, here's my blog with all my content. So yeah, I mean, for me, I just. But I love it as well. Like, I love writing my blog. I can't get everything that I want to say out in a small caption.
No.
Like, if I love or I go somewhere I'm inspired, or I want to be able to do multiple images, talk
Big
all
pictures.
of talk about, especially because I do a lot of DIY as well. It's impossible to do on a social media thing. You need to get into like the nitty gritty of like what went wrong or what did, you know. And I just love it. I love writing it. It's, you know, it's really enjoyable for me to sort of publish a post. I enjoy Instagram, but I feel like it has a bit more of a kind of school playground thing to it. A bit like, you know.
So funny. I was thinking that this morning.
Yeah,
very
it's
much
like
so.
when I publish a blog post, you know, oh, here's my blog post. Great, blah blah blah. And if people read it, but it's like, and it's a bit more like, put it out there. Who's liked it? Who likes me? Who doesn't? You know, and you think, I'm like a 40-year-old woman. I don't, you know, I shouldn't care about these things. But sometimes I do care. I'm like, oh, no one liked my photo, and you think, well, oh god, you know, you could just like, oh, whatever, get over it. But you know,
it's like, so you might not get as many likes as you'd hoped on Instagram, but on the website, on the blog, it's doing really well.
I know, and that's
but no one sees that.
Yeah,
so you feel
and
a bit
it's
like
you can't,
social
because
proof.
most of the time it's like the algorithm and what's over the bot, and maybe people just don't like it, and that's fine. But you know, whatever didn't work so much on Instagram is over in like a day or whatever. Whereas the blog, there's people will find it who are interested in that and going forward, and you know, it's very this sort of of how many numbers and how many likes, and then I swear people like see stuff that's popular and just like it because everyone else likes it. You know, that very school.
It's FOMO, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Or when you like something, you go to someone's, you know, if you're scrolling through and you see a picture, and then you see the first few names of people who you already follow, and you see who's followed it, and you go, oh, that person's followed it, I better follow it too. It's all that mentality that you don't even realise you're doing it.
Yeah, and it's how much of your time Instagram as well.
Oh,
like
so much.
If you do Instagram properly, like. Well, I say properly, and it's like, as in terms of like you engage with everyone. That's so much time out of your day, and if I just packed up the blog, it's time I could spend doing it. But for me, what am I really creating? I'm like just leaving comments for the sake of it, because I want that person to be like, oh, they like comment on mine, I'll comment on theirs and push me up. What am I really creating? Whereas with a blog, I'm actually creating, like I said before, it's something that could be helpful to someone in their own home, or creating new, you know, images. That's, you know, for me is more worth.
That's your buzz.
Yeah, I have to say, yeah.
So let's go to if people want to start a blog and they're thinking, oh my god, everyone's doing so well and they're already ahead of me. Where do I start? Like, what would be your kind of top tips on what to do if you're just getting started?
I would take about 2 to 3 weeks of just, you know, in the evening, just sitting and learning the basics. Work out what platform first that you want to go for. Do you want to go for WordPress? Do you want to go for Squarespace?
What's yours on?
So mine's on Squarespace, and the reason I chose Squarespace is because it was really easy to use.
Yeah, very
like
easy.
You can get a really nice design, and they've set it all up, and it's really like, it's like having an iPhone. You kind of don't need to read the instructions. You just work out like how it works. And it's really easy to use. But the downside of that is that if you want to change things up later, you want to, like, say you get more pro and you want to change all your layout or add special, you know, effects in, it won't really allow that, doesn't want you to put extra code in it, whereas WordPress is a lot more flexible. So I would work out first your kind of technical capability level and what you think suits your style as well, because Squarespace is quite modern. And then also just read up on all the kind of key things you need to know as a blogger. So if you're being paid for content, you can't, Google will punish you if you just put in like links. You need to do things like no follow links. Basically, no follow links mean that, because what you'll find when you're a blogger is a lot of companies contact you and say, if I give you 50 quid, can you just put this link in here? Mm-hmm. And you think, well, that's an easy 50 quid. But actually, Google will see that it's creating this sort of spammy, website, and they will punish you, and you'll just go further down the ranks in your blog. So you need to know about all these and there's not loads of them, but little rules, blog rules. You can find that out just by typing on like how to be a blogger.
So the no follow link things, basically, there's a little. My website runs through WordPress, but I'm sure it's the same on Squarespace. You basically have a little button that you click and it says link. Follow or no follow, and you just have to select that when you have link. So any of the links going through will either be follow or no follow.
Yeah, so your Squarespace is not that easy. You actually have to type in. It's really annoying.
Really?
You have to go in and put in code. Oh, I know. Which is another reason.
Okay, that's just scared them off now. Half the listeners.
Yeah. So I always put in code. Like you have to put in a bit of a workaround.
But you can literally Google how to do code.
Oh yeah,
it's so easy to
find. And once you know what you're doing, you'll go. So what I would say, choose your platform, read up on the rules. Those small little rules, and then just do it. Just get there and promote it. Like, don't just write blog posts, tweet about it, and then tweet about it again. Tweet about it every day for 7 days until you write your next one, and then tweet about that for 7 days. And and when you're doing your posts, do all social around it. So do stories like, I'm doing this right now. This is going to be part of a blog post. So people think, oh, I'm looking forward to this blog post, so I can see the final reveal. And but everything you do around on social is around to point, essentially, to get people back to your blog. I would learn also basic SEO, which is not hard. It's just learning about keywords. It's actually really straightforward. Yeah.
There's an app called, it's not an app, it's called a plugin. So like an app for your website is called a plugin. And it's called Yoast, and it makes it really easy. It literally just spells out everything you need to include. So if you put a keyword in, it tells you whether your keywords are in the right place, if you've got enough and all that sort of thing. So there are things you can do to make it really easy to understand and make sure you're ticking all the right boxes.
So and then you just, from that, you'll start then, as you keep going on, you'll start to see what posts are popular and why, and so you learn from that as well. Like, well, I obviously used the right keywords here, and I phrased it well, or people will comment, say why they liked it or why they didn't like it. You will get a lot of, I get so much mansplaining on it's the worst, because I do DIY, and then you get someone to be like, well, I've been in trade for some years, and actually blah 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 blah, and I'm like, why are you reading a post on a beginner's guide on how to do this? And because I'm not offering that, I'm offering something different, because especially with the DIY realm, like, you want that, you'll get some guy in his shed and he'll just talk all the lingo, and you're like, I can't deal with this. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Whereas I tend to be like, right, like I said,
matter of fact,
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
This is how I did it. This is what went wrong. This is how I rectified the mistake. So, you'll get people comment on your posts about what they liked about it and things, and then you just take from that and learn. You just have to keep learning on the job, and like you said, you're learning all these little tips. But most people share all this stuff. Learn to use Pinterest. Like Jen Stanbrook's just doing a course now. She's like a genius at Pinterest.
Really good.
Follow her, read her blog posts. Just all these little tips as you go forward. But like I said, don't worry if mine sucked so bad, my blog, for like a good while, and you just learn from that, and it's fine. It's fine.
So my last question. Yeah. What's next for you? It's January. We were just discussing how nice and quiet it is in January. We're going to use nice and quiet. It's also really nice and sunny today.
I know.
It's
I'm
gorgeous.
getting a suntan really through this window. What's next? Well, I mean, for me, I always just say the amount of opportunities that have come out for me from this blog is insane.
Would you say it's more from the blog than from Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in generally just having a presence but like you said, being on, and then saying, well, actually this person writes this blog and look at what she writes about. And, you know, you can find more out about what a person's all about by going to their blog rather than just skimming their Instagram. You know, considering I just started, like I said, from the music industry, no interiors sort of training.
Writing experience.
No, and like now the things that I've done, I mean, I've filmed an advert for Being Cute in my house. You know, I've done so many, I've talked at the like Grand Designs, I've talked, you know, all these things, incredible opportunities which have been really fun. You know, I've worked with all these incredible brands, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis, you know, I've done all these, been in multiple magazines, and you know, and that came from just the blog.
Yeah,
so
putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and you never know and that's one of the, I think, the exciting things about, you never know what's going to be in your inbox the next day, what opportunity. Going forward for me, well, there's probably a book on the cards.
I was just thinking that. There's a DIY book in this blog, definitely.
That is currently in discussion. No, I can't really, I'm not say anymore.
Yes, I'm sorry. My lips are sealed.
You know, it might not work out, but these things are. But that's.
Well, we're just going to put it out to the universe now. Yeah. If this one doesn't work out, someone is going to hear it and is going to be on the phone.
Yeah, and just you know, doing these things, which is great. And you know, for me as well, like I said, my child is got autism. I can never go back to doing the job that I could. Now I run my own diary and have an income, and you know, do these things that I love. It's changed my life at like this age. You know, is incredible. Yeah. The opportunity. I think so many people talk about social media and the internet such a negative way, and I do see that, especially, you know, for younger people and all that stuff. But the opportunity it has given people, you know, especially carers, mothers, all of that is huge. It's like, you know, and people say, oh, well, I hate it. Maybe being ads or sponsors posts, and I think people forget that actually companies and brands always have marketing budgets, and that budget will always be the same, you know, but it's just, rather than going down traditional means and ending up all in the pocket of like Google or Murdoch or whatever, it's being spread out. You know, and that, I think that's amazing. And so, you know, and anyone can do it. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I didn't say, you know, oh, I'm, you know, this qualified person. I just, you know, and I just started it.
Yeah, you just put yourself out there and run with it.
And, you know, and you just have to have a little bit of a thick skin, because someone's always going to say that they don't like what they do. But then no one likes everything, you know, and not everyone's going to like you, and that's fine. But, you know, just go with it. And some people will like what you do, and, you know, you never know what.
That's life, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's life in every walk of life,
you know,
everything you do.
So just the things, you know, and I've won like 4 awards, and which is crazy. And I always still think sometimes, oh, I always think, no, I'm never going to, you know, win that or do that. It's, mate, you know, and that's from nothing. And also as well, really small amount of financial investment, because you know, can learn as you go.
Yeah, and you're doing your home anyway. Yeah. So that money is just what you would have spent whether you were taking pictures or not. Yeah. So it's just things like the running of your website.
Yeah.
You know, Squarespace,
really
whatever that is.
Small amount of investment compared to, like, you know, people that run us and have to do a massive outlay that they, and then lose it and they'll get it back. It's brilliant. So I think as long as but you have to be passionate and dedicated. Yeah. If you're not, you'll find it tough. It's a lot of work. It's really, I mean, I do blog on the website, not as I'm starting to make it more regular because of the time investment, but just with the podcast, the time investment in sitting down, once we've finished recording, I have to go and edit it. I have to put all the show notes together, all the kind of behind the scenes stuff. Then, like you say, all the sharing, all the SEO, all the make sure the keywords are all right. It's the time investment in that is huge. But actually, if you have that time, or you make the time, because really, when you're saying you spend 2 days on it, if you have a full-time job, you can do a post every other week and do a little bit. I don't get up at and then start at 9 and finish at 5, because that's not the way my day runs. I will basically get up early and do like half an hour before my son wakes up, and then I'll take him to school, and then come back and do it till I pick him up from school. And then once he's in bed, I would then do it probably till midnight, and that's how it works. But I mean, that's
the joy of it.
Yeah,
that it can fit in with whatever you need it to fit in with.
Absolutely. So you know, it's that's the thing, you do it, and that's why I mean you need to be dedicated, because if you've got things and deadlines, and to meet that you can't just be like, oh, forget it, I'm just going to sit down and watch like Love Island or whatever. It doesn't work like that. No. You know, it's you need to stick with it and work hard at it. But for me, the benefits have been massively worth it. So yeah.
Thank you very much. You've given me and the listeners so much to think about, and if you haven't done a blog already, I think you'll be very inspired to go and do it now. Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist podcast. You can find all the details from today's episode over in the show notes on insidestylist.com. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you would head on over to iTunes and rate and review it. It's the best way to help other people find the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, bye for now.